13th, 2022. And I'd like to start with asking Captain Williams to lead us in the pledge.
Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, if you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Captain. Tammy Vaughn, will you please call roll?
Councilmember Bogue?
Here.
Councilmember Duncan?
Here.
Councilmember Thorpe?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Beaver?
Here.
Mayor Avila?
Here. Okay, any changes to the agenda? Mr. Casey?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, staff would respectfully request, number one, mitigation monitoring program was made available to the council this evening in the back of the room for number 9. Number 2, there's also an MOU was circulated under separate cover distributed tonight mitigation monitoring was number 8. The MOU is number 9. There was an additional agenda item, requested for this evening, an urgency item that staff would respectfully request council consideration of as a first department report, and then a small revision to item number 11 in terms of the option made available to council to select this evening. So the urgency item is an item relative to a special event permit application for the Yucaipa Animal Placement Society. That's an item that would require a vote to add to the agenda first, and then if it's approved to add to the agenda, it will require a 4/5 vote to be approved. And for the record, it's an item that came to our attention after the agenda was posted, and it's required that action be taken this evening, not waiting till June 27th, given that June 27th wouldn't give the group or us enough time to plan for a July 4th event. So we respectfully request that it be added to the agenda this evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, you're going to have to remind me, give me the high sign something when it comes up, because it's not on my script, and I don't see it on our agenda here, so you'll have to help me out with this.
It's listed, okay, happy to do that, sir.
Thank you.
You need a motion to
To add to the agenda, correct.
I'll make a motion that we add this urgency item, and also, you said there were some amendments? Do we need to?
No need for a motion on the amendments, just
Okay.
for the record, those were handouts for this evening in one amendment, but adding to the agenda does require a motion.
So then I'll move that we add the urgency item to the agenda.
I'll second.
All right, we have a first and a second. Do we have any questions? If no further questions or discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. 5-0. Thank you, sir. Okay, this is the time for public comment. If there's any speakers want to speak, we have some speaker slips at the table near the entrance of the chamber. And please fill out the information. And if you have just a general public comment, just indicate that on your speaker slip. Or if you have something specific on the agenda in which you'd like to speak, you're more than welcome to. Total time will be 3 minutes for each person. I encourage everybody to participate in the process. And right now, I have just one speaker, and it'll be Austin Todd.
Hi there. This might be like 3 minutes and 10 seconds. Hopefully it's okay. My name's Austin Todd. I've been a resident of Yucaipa basically my whole life. I'm a triplet. My mom and dad raised me and my siblings here in Yucaipa. We grew up on the North Ridge down the street from what is now the North Cork Winery. Since graduating high school, I've received 3 bachelor's degrees in finance, real estate, and economics. I also received my master's degree in investment management. I started my own business, Capital United, where we provide clients with financial services and mortgage banking. I'm a real estate investor. I own the building across the street from Yucaipa on the Boulevard, next door to the pet shop. And I also own 160 acres up on Carter, where I'm currently working with the city on putting in vineyards and possibly a winery and houses as well. I'm here because I wanted to address the city council in regards to paving the way for what could be an additional $5 million in new and accretive annual business revenue to the city. About 5 years ago, I bought a commercial building in Palm Springs. The city of Palm Springs thereafter opened up the licensing process for marijuana dispensaries. I applied, and because of my banking and business background, I received the permit. The city attorney, Edward Cotkin, said if I was approved, I better show up, and I did. Part of the licensing process was the city requirement for developing the whole lot and building to the tune of $1.5 million. The city used the licensing process as an opportunity to make sure the buildings and lots were completely remodeled and to add to the beautification of the city of Palm Springs, which is just another idea to throw out if the city of Yucaipa were to ever consider this type of license application process. This requirement also helped Palm Springs sift through the serious from non-serious business owners. I still own the building with an operational and licensed dispensary, delivery, and manufacturing business that is doing well. You can look up in the city of Palm Springs budget information. During just the last 12 months, ending June 2022, they brought in $4.7 million in cannabis tax revenues. Palm Springs has a population of roughly 48,000 people. Yucaipa has a population of 55,000 or over. So on a per capita basis, you can see that this is potential $5 million that the city of Yucaipa could be missing out on. Neighboring cities are allowing delivery businesses to deliver into Yucaipa and taking away tax dollars from the city of Yucaipa. There are over 10 liquor stores in Yucaipa. If you include gas stations and grocery stores that sell liquor, you have about 30 businesses selling alcohol in Yucaipa. I simply ask, when can we open our eyes to even just medical marijuana for the citizens of Yucaipa? The state of New Jersey now allows legal sales of recreational marijuana, and a few months ago, the New Jersey Attorney General, Matt Platkin, issued a memo to law enforcement leaders reminding them that New Jersey now allows police officers to consume marijuana when they're off duty. I'm not saying Yucaipa should take it this far. Nobody wants Yucaipa to stay the amazing, conservative, and family-oriented community more than I do. I have 3 children I want to raise here. I've sold real estate all over the Inland Empire. Yucaipa is the place to be. The fact of the matter is there are upper-class and middle-class hardworking citizens that do consume marijuana. And they should be able to do so legally.
Finish your thought.
Okay. I truly think Yucaipa should be proactive instead of reactive and allow applications from upstanding businesses and owners to operate legally and to help the city build the surplus it deserves.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Okay, we have another speaker for public comment, Mr. Peter Matheson.
Thank you, Mayor Avila and City Council. I'm just here to kind of follow up on what's going on with the Five Winds Festival. I filed a FOIA request and received partial minutes of the 2 meetings where you may have discussed it. However, no other additional information. Megan led me to believe I'd be getting some sort of map or some kind of plan with what's going on with the Five Winds Festival. I've heard recently that Harbor Productions has now pulled out. I don't know if that's true or not, or whether you want to confirm or deny or address any of this. There was a fire up in the neighborhood of where this festival's being planned today. And we have some real serious concerns up in our neighborhood about the potential for further fires. I mean, sorry, I'm not wearing a suit and everything. I've been digging up in a canyon all day, replacing damages from the fires still, and the floods and everything else that comes after. I mean, I know I'm here to make comment, not for you guys to comment back to me, but I just want you to be aware that not only myself and my neighbors, but many of the people in this area are not really in favor of what has come down the line with what's going on with Five Winds Ranch right now. I think that the city should probably take a closer look at what the wildlands use of that area could be, more than using it as a amphitheater of some sort, which, if I'm not mistaken, there are already several other venues in town that could be used to serve these sorts of events. And I'm not even sure if we're gonna see it happen. I was up there today, and it doesn't look like it's ready for much. So, I don't need the whole 3 minutes. I'm not here to try and get you guys to legalize cannabis or do anything crazy. I just want to make sure that you're aware, not everybody in this neighborhood is for this. Not everybody was consulted. Apparently, the city only gave 1 mile radius warning. And I don't know about y'all, if you ever live next to a concert venue, you can hear that music for more than a mile, for sure. Plus the risk of everything else. And on closing, I guess I'll be filing additional FOIA requests tonight to try and fulfill some of this information that the city has been hesitant or negligent in providing. And I would really like to see some sort of permit or plan for this event. I think that that's a smart idea before anybody have a large event, to have some sort of idea what they're doing. So I'm not going to go over. I'll leave that with you.
Thank you very much for your comment. I believe we heard you, and we should be getting back to Mr. Matheson and provide him with the information he requests. Thank you. If there are no more public comment requests, Tammy? Nothing? Okay. Thank you. The public comment period is now over. We'll go ahead and move on to the consent agenda. Do we have anything that anyone on the dais would like to pull for discussion?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Number 7, I'm going to have to abstain from because of my employment. So I won't be able to vote on that. I don't know if we want to do 1 through 6. If you pull 7 to talk about it, I'm going to have to step out. But if it's on consent, then
I think what we can do is that we can do a general vote with an abstention, 1 abstention on number 7. Is that correct?
Certainly, as long as that's not pulled, that would be a fine way to proceed.
Okay. All right, are there any ones that we want to pull for discussion?
I'll move approval for items 1 through 7 on the consent agenda.
All right. Motion to approve 1 through 7.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor of 1 through 6, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, no opposition. And for number 7, all in favor? Aye. And any opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstained.
We have 4 yeses, 0 nos, and 1 abstention. Very good. Thank you very much. Moving on to mayor and council member business reports. Anything to report from anybody? We have nothing. I do want to announce, for good or not good, I've been selected to be the vice chair of the transit committee for the San Bernardino County Transit Authority. So I get, congratulations. I get to be an influencer now on how we're going to spend these millions of dollars that the SBCTA gets every year. So there's that. Pending action on, possible action on pending legislation. Mr. Casey, is there anything?
I have nothing this evening, Mr. Mayor. Certainly happy to follow up on anything council would choose me to, but nothing specific this evening.
Anything from our inside man?
Oh, there's lots, but I'm not going to get into it right now.
Okay. Okay, department reports. Our first item is number 8, or,
The urgency item, perhaps, if you so choose.
urgency item, I'm sorry, thank you. Let's go ahead and discuss the urgency item. Ms. Martinez.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. So I am here this evening as the city has received a special event permit from the Yucaipa Animal Placement Society, also known as YAPS. YAPS is requesting permission to reserve and utilize the parking lot south of the YAPS facility at the Yucaipa High School baseball fields on 13th Street, as well as the northern portion of the 13th Street Sports Complex and Skate Park. They would like to use the parking lot from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Monday, July 4th, 2022. So YAPS is seeking to host their annual fundraiser consisting of a catered dinner, opportunity drawings, and viewings of the city fireworks show. If the special event permit is approved, event setup is scheduled for July 4th, 2022, from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., with the event held from 5 p.m. to 9:30 p.m., and event cleanup is scheduled immediately following the event from 9:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. YAPS is anticipating an event attendance of 250 and use of the city-owned public parking lots, which requires the review and approval of the special event permit by council. YAPS will be responsible to control access to the referenced parking lot areas through use of their volunteers and staff. And it is important to note that Yucaipa BMX will be hosting a small event at their facility, which will not require a special event permit due to its size of approximately 60 to 80 participants. The Yucaipa BMX event will be utilizing the parking lot area and the Thunderbird Way, not affected by this proposed special event permit. Also to note, the National Little League will not host games on July 4th and will not require the use of the parking lot at the 13th Street Sports Complex. Additionally, the city's 4th of July fireworks show at Yucaipa High School will be utilize the high school parking lots. At the council meeting on March 14, 2022, council approved the closure of Chapman Heights Road west of 10th Street and east of 13th Street, and the closure of Gold Mountain Road north of Chapman Heights Road from 5 p.m. until 10 p.m. on July 4th, 2022. The approved road closures will not affect this special event permit. There is no fiscal impact as a result of this action, and YAPS is financially responsible for any and all staff recommendations and requirements related to the approval of the special events permit. At this time, I direct your attention to the map on the screen, just to be able to reference the two parking lots in which YAPS is requesting to utilize in their proximity to both the YAPS building and the proximity of the Yucaipa BMX and their parking lot, and all the ample parking that will be available on Thunderbird Way. That concludes the staff report, and city staff are available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Good presentation. Do we have any questions of staff? No? Do I hear a motion to approve this?
So move.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. If no further discussion, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, no abstentions, passes 5-0. Very good. Okay, moving on to item number 8. That would be the County Line Road and Kalamasa Boulevard Road Improvements Project Environmental Review. Mr. Matlock.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. Tonight I am before you with the environmental clearance for one of the phases of the County Line Road projects. As City Council is aware, the City of Yucaipa and City of Kalamasa have been partnering up to address the roadway and the circulation of kind of the joint access for the city that shares between it, so County Line Road. Some of the past projects has included some sidewalks that have been installed along County Line Road. Roundabouts are currently under construction, and one of the last kind of projects that's moving through the process right now is County Line Road and Kalamasa Boulevard. And so it's this intersection as you approach towards Interstate 10 is another piece of that roadway connectivity for both cities that is in need of some improvements. And so we have been working with Kalamasa to provide those designs, and right now we're at the stage of the environmental review has concluded. As part of it, a mitigated negative declaration was prepared and provided for public comment during a period of February 23rd of this year through March 24th. 24 responses were received, and a public response letter was also provided out in response to those comments that we had received. As part of the project, the City of Kalamasa is a co-lead agency, so they also have taken action on the environmental clearance and had adopted the MND on their regular City Council meeting of May 16th. And so as the other co-lead agency, we are following suit and requesting adoption of the MND, and then from there it will lead to the acquisition efforts for the property takes to complete the project, and then ultimately the construction of the property after that. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions of staff? Hearing none. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll move approval.
Do you have a first?
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Everybody, sure you have no questions, guys? Okay. If no further discussion, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing no opposition, it passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 9, Yucaipa Valley Wine Country Specific Plan. And again, Mr. Matlock.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council members. Before you is kind of the MOU for the EIR cost share for the Wine Country or Yucaipa Valley Wine Country Specific Plan and its associated supplemental EIR to the general plan. As Council may recall, at the March 28th, 2020 City Council meeting, City Council did approve a public professional services agreement with both Placeworks and Dudek in order to complete this necessary environmental step for the overall specific plan and the implementation of our wine country in the North Bench of the city. As part of that, the motion did include that a cost share or kind of a fair share reimbursement agreement be executed with a developer for the property. So essentially tying in, one of the first phases of projects that may come through and having, making sure that the different property owners have some skin in the game for the environmental review. As part of that, we have been working with the owner of the Casablanca Ranch as part of the developer that would take the lead, so to speak, on this cost share. And so a MOU has been prepared as well as some kind of preliminary vision points for development that may occur. I also do have on the screen kind of a conceptual layout for his subject site. This was reviewed at the most recent Yucaipa Valley Wine Country Planning Committee. Just to kind of go over the vision that he's looking to do, which is the residential component consistent with the specific plan direction, providing a substantial area for future wineries to be developed, as well as the preservation of the Wilson Creek Channel, creation of trails and open space, and then as well as a kind of a flex use park and parking lot, which would allow for overflow parking for some of the different winery venues, as well as the public park to serve some of the residents. This certainly is a conceptual design for it, but certainly just kind of memorializes what they are kind of looking to do consistent with the specific plan. And with this, we will formally kick off the EIR efforts for the specific plan as a whole. And so with that, that concludes my presentation. Happy to answer any questions. And yeah.
Thank you very much. Are any questions of staff? Any comments?
Is the Water District reviewing these projects?
As part of the environmental review, they will be, and then as part of the scope for the wine country specific plan does include a water service assessment as well, and so the Water District will be participating in the infrastructure requirements for the specific plan as a whole, yes.
And they're the only water district that's participating, is the Yucaipa Valley Water District?
Yeah, they would be the sewer and water purveyor as well as recycled water for the of the wine country specific.
And just to add briefly, they've also been participating in some of the committee meetings, Water District representatives, and I believe that the development representative has met with Water District representatives as well. So there has been ongoing communication.
Including up to today, I believe.
To and including today, yes.
Do we have a dollar amount per acre? Is that how this works out as far as the EIR fair share? We have like 1,094 acres up there. Is there like a dollar amount per acre that is going to cover the cost of this EIR? Do we know that?
We're getting close to that figure. This is essentially a deposit against, $100,000 deposit against that ultimate pro rata cost. One of the challenges is how much of that pro rata cost do you apply to the commercial winery areas versus the residential component of the specific plan. So we're working out those details, but if you have 1,000 units and it's $1 million, it's almost $1,000 a unit if you don't include the commercial, but it should be some kind of pro rata share probably for the commercial sites as well.
All right. Any more questions, comments? Everybody good to go? So, this is a vote. Do we have a vote to approve?
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Here, a second. Okay, thank you. All right, we have a first and a second. If no further discussion, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? It carries 5-0. Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 10, amendment number 8 to waste disposal agreement. Mr. Casey will give the presentation.
I'll be very brief, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. This item is an update to our waste disposal agreement with the county, brought along because this year the county decided to freeze the gate rate for the general public and other users of their landfill system. And their formulaic approach to the WDA cities, we have about 15 cities that are in the WDA, together with the city of Yucaipa, including the city of Yucaipa, resulted in an increase in the tipping fee or the gate charge for landfills for each of the member agencies of the WDA. That didn't quite seem reasonable, and the county ultimately agreed with that. And so staff is, city and county staffs are recommending that formula be changed. And not only for this year, but going forward, that the WDA city gate rate or tipping fee would not exceed 85% of any increase that the county may apply to other folks, general public and other users of the landfill. So we think that this is not only a short-term solution, but a longer-term solution. And therefore, we are recommending that City Council approve this agreement, amendment number 8 to the agreement with the county for the waste disposal agreement that all of us and the other member cities of the WA group are a party to or a part of. So with that, happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ray. Are any questions of staff? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to approve this?
So move.
I'll second.
You have a first and a second. If no further discussion, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? It carries 5-0. And now we're moving on to item number 11, professional services agreement, third-party collections of unpaid civil fines. Mr. Matlock.
Thank you again. So before you is a professional services agreement with Data Ticket for the third-party collections of unpaid civil fines. As the City Council is aware, as part of our code enforcement activities following the adoption of ordinance number 283, we have an administrative citation process where if someone is in violation of the city's municipal codes or development code, code enforcement will go out, verify the condition of the site, and then from there issue a warning, the first notice of violation, then after that, there will be successive fees for those that do not correct those actions or at least make progress in the correction of those items. And then as part of the overall process, every year we would consolidate all those fines and then bring it for a formal lien that would be then placed on the property. And so as part of it, it would result in rather lengthy meetings where all these liens and citations would be carried together. And then those property owners would go from there. And then several years ago, due to a court case that kind of modified or created some challenges, it was modified in 2019 where the civil fines that would be then liened would only be staff costs. So if the property owner had, let's say, received, $300 of fines or $10,000 of fines, if staff cost was only, $300, that would be the only thing that would be then placed on the lien. And so part of that has resulted in those that necessarily had, are habitual offenders where they haven't done a lot of action where code enforcement can go out there and recognize, no progress has been made, doesn't involve a lot of time spent on individual code cases, whereas if someone is recently getting fines, trying to figure out solutions. Code enforcement spends a lot more time trying to help them through the process. And so as a result, the balance of the fines ends up being inequitable towards those that are a bit more responsive versus those that just ignore the code enforcement citations. And then even with those reductions as part of the lien process, certainly council would have people come by requesting, additional reductions or at least some relief on it. But because of the reductions are being applied to everyone across the board, those that have come before city council requesting kind of some relief haven't upheld that stuff in terms of meeting their obligations that council agreed to. But because the reductions were part of staff costs, there wasn't the impetus for them to make those solutions. And so with that, a study session was held on September 13th, 2021 to discuss different ways that the administrative citation process can go. In outreach into a lot of different cities, and was presented at that study session is the use of a third-party firm to essentially be collecting the civil fines as part of the administrative citation process and really freeing up staff to focus on just working with those property owners, trying to find solutions and being responsive to it. And then really the money side isn't, code enforcement isn't a bill collector. We're not trying to be those people. We're trying to help people. And so this firm instead facilitates that process, and with great success in many different communities. As we looked into following that study session, how different cities approached it, what firms they used, it was pretty much across the board that Data Ticket was the firm that they used. All the code enforcement officers as well as administrators that we reached to a number of different cities all referenced Data Ticket as being the preferred vendor. And then as part of it, we did reach out to them for information. They did give a tour of how their software works for city staff, which was helpful. Really is a simplified process, easy for both those that need to pay citations as well as for city staff to figure out how that process works. And then one other element that was impressive is that it does integrate into the city's future enterprise software. So once we convert to the InterGov system, their software talks with that software. And so it's a seamless integration of if something happens or if we reduce something, if we modify something, their system in real time collects that data and is able to modify as well. And that does result in staff efficiencies on our end as well. And so with that, staff does recommend the professional services agreement because of that experience with other cities as well as the future integration with the software. As part of the pricing structure, the Data Ticket has two different options. One is a straight fee issued. So once a property owner gets cited and ultimately receives a fine, then they assess a one-time fee to process that and every other subsequent element that's with it. And the cost recovery goes back to the city. There's no additional fees after that point. Or they have a second option where it's a smaller fee for the initial start, but then whatever Data Ticket collects, they receive 26% of the revenue. And so with the simplicity of option one, which is just the straight line fee, staff does recommend that may be the preferred alternative. And then as talking with other cities, what they have done to offset any general fund costs is a non-refundable kind of processing fee that goes with it. So if we issue a fine to a property owner, it triggers that fee from Data Ticket. We would have a non-refundable fee that would then cover that specific administrative cost as well. And so as part of the comprehensive user fee discussion, which will be the next item, we have included a number for that as well to offset any general fund impacts with the implementation of this program. With that, that concludes my presentation. I did want to reference kind of the updated agenda report, which just specifies the selection of the option of the one-time fee for the cost approach. So they have the two different options. And so the updated recommendation includes the reference to the single cost option.
Which is option one.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Any questions of staff?
What are we doing now? How do we, did I miss that? What are we doing now as far as trying to, I remember the whole discussion about we can't collect all the fees, we can only collect time and spent by staff, but what are we doing now as far as collecting?
So it's placing the lien on it, and those that are savvy know to wait until the annual lien process to get the fee reduction, so then that way it becomes the official fee that they're charged rather than the,
So we place a lien on their mortgage or on their property.
That is
And then when they sell, if they ever do sell, then we get paid that way.
yes.
All right, any other questions, comments? So what do we want to do? We have two options before us. Option number one, which was a simpler version that's recommended by staff. And then there's the option number two. You guys want to go with the
I like one.
staff recommendation? It's simpler. Do we have any preference?
Well, I'm just curious, so this particular company, Data Recovery, or whatever it's called, they're going to be calling the homeowners or the property owners and asking them to pay like a collection agency?
Yeah, so they would facilitate kind of the money side of the code enforcement cases. They would issue the actual fines themselves, and then we would collect it through them. But they would be the ones that go to the tax franchise board and assess if it needs to go in terms of delinquent fines. They would facilitate that process. The rest of the administrative citation process would remain the same. So if a property owner wants to request a reduction or dispute perhaps a code enforcement citation, that process remains. They do have the ability to do that and ultimately bring it to city council that can waive all those fees as well. But they would be the money people, so to speak, and code enforcement staff wouldn't be trying to collect fines. They would just be trying to work with property owners on solving the code enforcement case instead.
And if I may, we were a little brief in our discussion of the previous council action or discussion that led us here. And part of that conversation was related to the staff time that it takes to put together the staff reports for the annual lien process, and that perhaps through this effort, there will be, over time, less and less of those liens required because the actions are taken along the way instead of waiting until the end of the year. There's almost a disincentive now for folks to pay those fines because of the law that requires at the end of the day, those liens only be the actual costs of staff time, et cetera. So the thought was that having a collection agency involved along the way would ultimately reduce the number of folks that aren't following up on their fines and waiting for the lien process. So that was, I think, part of the discussion that staff presented the last time the council heard this.
So if somebody receives a citation and wants to contest the allegation, do we employ the hearing officer, or is that through data ticket as well?
I'm sorry, what was the question, sir?
If somebody receives an administrative citation for a violation of our municipal code and wants to contest the violation, appeal it, do we employ a hearing officer? Does Data Pilot do that as part of this contract?
So they can, and there is a fee that they provide for doing the hearing officer. Our administrative citation processes already facilitate that process, so it can either be done in-house, which would involve me being as the hearing officer, and then we usually have a code enforcement officer from another city that listens to that and weighs in. It isn't a process because of the fee reductions that have happened with the fine process or the lien process. We haven't had one in a number of years, which used to be a little bit more commonplace. But yeah, there is that solution, and it can be through Data Ticket as a third party, kind of neutral observer, or through the city with a code enforcement officer from another jurisdiction too.
I'm sorry, Ben, did you say you're the hearing officer at times?
I'm a part of the hearing with it, and then usually another code officer from another city is there to hear it.
And this is related to actual cost and not the penalties, correct?
Yeah, that is right.
Well, you know that we're going to take a pounding because we're sticking a collection agency after them. I mean, we get yelled at for $1.17 to pick up a trash container more a month, $1.17 more a month. We get pounded for that, but when this gets out, it's going to be, well, the city council has sicked a collection agency on us, and has this ever been done before by the city of Yucaipa?
I'm sorry, what was the question, sir?
Has this ever been done before with any other cost recovery?
This is the first time we've come to you with the final approval for a collection agency contract. Again, we've had this conversation in
Right, no, I know.
study session, a previous, but first time we've come to you with an actual contract. And to clarify the answer, yes, this does include the penalty costs as well. And that's the, that's the collection agency's interest in doing it, of course, is the cost.
I do want to note that none of the administrative fee costs, so the citation amounts for code enforcement, none of those numbers change. It's just merely the mechanism to address those delinquent fees is going to be a little bit different, a little bit more streamlined, a little bit more, the intention is to be more equitable in that process rather than the automatic reductions. But the citation amounts, none of those numbers are changing.
But this basically expedites the collection process, hopefully, instead of having to wait till the property sells.
But then also reduces staff time in preparing that lengthy city council meeting document that we had last year, where everybody
And
was
that's
lining up
expensive.
here asking for, forbearance. The municipal code is the law of the city of Yucaipa. I mean, it mirrors the California State Penal Code in a lot of ways, and our deputies are fully empowered to write municipal code violation citations as well. In fact, there used to be quite a few deputies up here who wrote municipal code violations. So while I will agree with Councilman Duncan, there's going to be people who have heartburn about this. The fact of the matter is, at the plainest terms, they violated the law. Although it is a municipal code, not a state statute, they violated the law, and there is an actual and tangible consequence for doing that in the city of Yucaipa. And I don't think that the rest of the city taxpayers should be burdened by watching the staff be tied up with their penalties instead of helping them with whatever other type of development and other city functions that they should have. I am a little concerned that we don't, if I understood correctly, we don't actually have an independent, unbiased third-party hearing officer. Is that accurate? We employ city staff to be the hearing officers when somebody disputes these violations?
If I understand it, it would be Ben Matlock and a code enforcement officer from another jurisdiction who will offer a third party or an objective.
Yeah, so it's normally the other code enforcement officer is the one kind of weighing in, and I'm there to listen to everything, see how things are going, but
And it's from another city?
Yeah.
It's not from the city of Yucaipa? Do we use the same city every time?
As I mentioned, we haven't done it too many times, but the last time we had it was with the city of Kalamasa, and I believe the city of Redlands has participated as well, but normally it's the city of Kalamasa, and then we'll assist with them as well.
And you said that data ticket actually has a contract or a line item that allows for them to provide the hearing officer. Should that be decided?
Yes, they do. So it's I believe in their fee structure, $100 for them to set up the hearing officer, set up the hearing, and go through that process.
Is that something that would be burdened onto the person contesting the citation should they not prevail? That just an added line item on their penalty schedule? Or is that something that the city has to pay up front?
So right now, it's not identified as part of the comprehensive user fee. We just established kind of a line item that includes a little bit of overhead for staff costs, and so depending on council's preference, it could be that fee added in where that triggers that payment, or it just floats within the overall revenue of that too.
I'd just say in this context, if the council wanted us to go in that direction, we could look at that. I would have some preliminary concerns about a burden to folks being able to exercise their appeal rights if there was a significant financial ramification. I just want to run that to ground if that's something that, if the council was looking to capture the kind of transactional costs associated with an appeal, which again, I think Mr. Matlock is saying is fairly, to date, has been very rare.
Any other comments? The objective is to hope and pray that all of our, that we don't have these issues. That's what, we don't want them, and maybe this might be the catalyst to motivate people to be more responsive to their responsibilities. First, to prevent this from happening, and second, to step up and take care of business while it's still early and at the lowest possible cost. So this is just another tool, unfortunately, that we have to employ. So to get people to comply is such a hard word, but to participate in doing the right thing. So,
Ray, we had a number, we had more than just one study session. I know we've been discussing this for years. This is nothing new. Was there ever opposition to this?
Not that I heard like tonight, but potentially, but you're right. We have discussed it also in the budget process, but we had specific study sessions on this issue relative to, it just takes so much time to deal with some of these code enforcement issues that carry over from one year to the next, and unfortunately, again, as I said earlier, with state law, it's become a disincentive for folks to kind of deal with it as time goes on, and they literally wait till the lien process to the last minute and look for, relief, if you will. So this is a way to clean up the community, not have perhaps as many of these cases where they go from one year to the next, and I think that was the impetus behind council's previous discussion.
yeah, we're the ones who brought it forward. All right. This requires a vote. Do I hear a motion to approve, move forward?
Are we going to vote on option one? Is that what we're going to do?
I'll move approval on option 1.
I'll second.
Okay, we have first and second. If no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Very good. It passes 5-0. Okay, now it's time for public hearing. We're going to open the public hearing up for item number 12, the comprehensive user fee schedule update for fiscal year 22-23. And the presenter will be Mr. Hamilton, I believe.
Mr. Mayor. Before you tonight, this item has been reviewed by the Finance Committee. And so what this is just the general kind of annual update for the user fee schedule. So in the past 3 to 4 years, here are some of the updates that have been passed by the City Council regarding the user fees. Utilize the cost allocation plan. It's called the CAP from 2015-16 fiscal year. Cost allocation plan, in essence, takes some of the administrative departments like finance, et cetera, and gets to allocate those costs to, the fee schedules to customers. The elimination of that limit of 80% increase on approximately 56 of the fees. There are about 200 that didn't have those limits in the past. And you can see the CPI adjustments between about 2.5% and 3.5% for the last 3 years. So these are the items, again, that had been adopted by the City Council in prior user fee updates. This slide shows what is before you, in essence, a summary of the proposed user fees. The first update is using a more up-to-date cost allocation plan, the CAP for fiscal 2019-20, that was adopted by the City Council last May. As you saw in the staff report, the CPI adjustment for March for the annual rate of 10%. And what is the bottom line? The average increase of the user fees is approximately 13.5%. There are 2 new fee types, LAFCO and their related fees, and then as Ben had in the previous item, this third-party collection for code enforcement. So just for your benefit, here is a slide of the last 4 year CPIs. You can see the substantial increase for '22. With that is the recommended action to adopt the new resolution, rescind the old one, updating the user fee schedule, and then the last part of this is making a determination that it's exempt from CEQA.
Andrew didn't mention conduct the public hearing, so you'll have to open the public hearing, conduct the public hearing as well.
I believe I opened it. Oh, did you? Yes.
Sorry, didn't hear that.
And that concludes my presentation. I'll be
All right.
happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions of staff? Mr. Duncan, start with you.
Well, I have a lot of questions, but not prepared to say anything just yet. Go ahead.
Mr. Beaver?
So is this going to affect our ability to get projects done as far as meeting the RENA numbers, or you think, or?
I think everybody in every industry right now is being confronted with inflation costs, and unfortunately, if these costs aren't passed along to the development community, they're going to be subsidized by the general fund, by the folks in the community. So it's a tough issue. It's affecting everything that we do. It's affecting our costs as well, and but the bottom line is those costs are there, and those costs would have to be passed on to the rest of the community if the folks that are pulling permits don't pay their fair share for those costs.
And also, if I may, I believe the diff fees are going to be a much higher impact to the overall cost to developers than these fees.
Yeah, than the user fees, yes.
Yeah, the costs have gone up everywhere. We just got a bid on a remodel for our house, and it went up a lot. So, and the fees have gone up. So it's our inflationary rate. It's just going crazy. And it's going to affect some housing. I believe it will. But that's where we're stuck with. You know, we're not making a profit off of this, obviously. But we don't want to lose money in the process either, because that affects our ability to continue to provide the quality, the level of service that we provide to the community as it is. So we're stuck. It's kind of a rock and a hard spot. We either accept this, and if not, what's the option? What do you guys want to do?
It seems like we're always stuck between a rock and a hard spot, and the state is never stuck between a rock and a hard spot, which totally blows my mind how they can regulate, and then decisions like this that we make, which makes us look bad to the general public or to the builders, but the bottom line is the RENA numbers aren't going to go down. It's depressing for me, but.
It is. It's extremely frustrating, and you know, we're the tail. We're getting wagged.
I'll move approval.
We have a motion to approve. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? I'm sorry, we should have closed the hearing first and then opened it up for discussion. And we didn't have any extra discussion, so the public hearing is closed. And let's do it one more time. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you very much. I saw that and I go, uh-oh.
And we'll just note in the record that there were no public comments during the public hearings.
Thank you. Yes. Okay, final thing is any announcements from council members? None at all. All right, thank you for enjoying our evening together. We'll go ahead. We have any closed session items, Mr. Snow? None to.
We do not have any this evening.
All right, we'll go ahead and adjourn the council meeting. Have a wonderful evening.